The Jet Black Hedgehog, Chapter 5. The story repeats what happened at the end of the last issue lazily, and Shadow's punch goes through Black Doom, causing him to warp away in a flash of light. Maria hopes Shadow's okay, and Shadow stupidly tells her to stay close instead of telling her to run away and keep a good distance from him so she won't get caught in the crossfire of a fight. Implying that if she did get brought back to life, Eggman might just kill her by accident if she's hanging out with him on his missions for no reason. Missions, that's right. Shadow working for Gunn had him going on missions, which is exactly what the Freedom Fighters called their fighting Eggman. Black Doom's so arrogant, he thinks he knows everything about someone that he didn't watch grow up every hour of the day since he was gone. I hate that so many pages are being wasted on Black Doom telling Shadow something he and we already know. And if this is why he got total amnesia, it wasn't worth it. This issue looks empty so far. Black Doom was smart enough to assume that Gerald had other intentions than weapon development, even though Gerald never would have told him that. And he would have assumed Gerald's afraid attitude around him was from his looks. Black Doom talks about the history of Game Shadow, which is thankfully written to confuse Shadow. How does Black Doom even know Shadow slept for 50 years straight anyways? He would have had to have intentionally looked into parts of his memory that he wouldn't need to find that out. Let alone to know everything about him. Sure, he showed Shadow one memory in his game. That was just a memory he wanted to look at. It's not like he knows everything about him, favorite food included. This is an adaptation of a game, but it's not identical to its plot. So it's not representing the plot of the game, but in comic form. So it's another universe. So there's no point in having events in its past that coincidentally are identical to the games. It shows no self-awareness and thought about what this is. It's clearly unnecessary for the story to say that this Black Doom already fought a version of Shadow. There's nothing good about this. I didn't expect that, so no one would have cared if he didn't write that. All this accomplishes is wasting our time. Black Doom says he wants to completely restore his body. If he means his and not this, why didn't he say his? To achieve that, he needed Shadow's power to connect with him, despite him being in another universe. He says he manipulated Shadow's memory to make it as if his cells were behind the Arc Raid, so he comes to hate everything. But that would make him only hate the Black Arms. Making him have an evil plan just because he's a villain without thinking it through. And people actually think this manga is amazing? He says all his other memories were erased, while the stupid artist draws a bunch of characters that this Shadow never met. This is so off-putting because we've been following Shadow since issue 1. He experienced all that stuff for real. It wasn't just a flashback he was remembering wrong 50 years later. He experienced stuff other than just the Arc Raid. Why would Black Doom have bothered having the stuff before that get remembered? And it's explained that Bug-Eye was created by Black Doom to make him absorb the orbs. So why did Shadow have to intimidate him into telling him how to grant a wish by finding the orbs? Why didn't he tell him that right away? He didn't want to tell him how to get the orbs at first because he wasn't asking nicely and trying to escape from him, which doesn't come off like he had a mission. So if he was so spiteful, he should have tricked him right away because of that. This is so convoluted. It's just to use the trope of betrayal. Black Doom shouldn't have come back. He wasn't meant to. If Black Doom can manipulate people's memories, why didn't he change Shadow's memories in Shadow the Hedgehog to get him to be on his side the instant he saw him? So this can't be canon to the games, which makes it stupid that it claims that in the past a version of Shadow defeated him. Because he never would've. This is way too OP a power for a villain. When you make a villain overpowered, it's impossible to make him lose and have it be natural. So some powers shouldn't even be given to villains in fiction. How would anyone think this is canon? People realize that Prime isn't canon because it contradicts the games. Oh, this is canon just because they said it was canon. Once again, nobody is given thought bubbles that acknowledge his stupidity, so we know it's on purpose. For a guy who just does something to kick the dog, he doesn't even tell Shadow about those people he thinks he made him forget. What's the point of giving him almost amnesia if he's not even gonna brag about it? It's just a minor annoyance to him because he doesn't know what he's missing. Black Doom says that because of the power Shadow got from the orbs, his power to connect with him is coming back. Why'd it take so long? He also damages the city buildings in a dimension that's almost completely devoid of people anyways, just to try to look cool. Why does he think he has to try so hard when he should know he's powerful? He's no different than Infinite here. He says he just has to absorb Shadow and be fully restored, as Shadow and Maria had run far enough away that they wouldn't be hurt by the falling buildings that are as close to him as they used to be. Somehow he can only absorb Shadow if there's enough hatred in him. So why doesn't this moron manipulate his memories even more? He could have gone ridiculously over the top, put Maria through even more stuff than in the game. And yeah, he couldn't have because he got an M rating, but that's why the story should have given him this power for literally no reason other than, wouldn't it be cool if... He already had gotten Shadow to the point of saying he'll kill all of the soldiers around him earlier. Then why didn't they put him through that experience to make him feel that way only after he made sure he collected the orbs? Bogey's happy at this point somehow, despite saying that he's waiting to be absorbed or erased. Doesn't he mean absorbed and erased? It's redundant. I assume when he's trying to smile here, it's a Stepford smile. But it makes no sense that he'd even try to smile here. Why doesn't he flee to try to save himself? He has literally nothing to gain by just staying here. Maria says that because he tricked Shadow, she got to see the outside of the Ark. And she doesn't say again. And she thanks him for it, which confuses him. Somehow Black Doom is talking as if he just now got the idea to try to kill Maria to upset Shadow. What a moron. He could have just attacked right away. He had literally no reason to volunteer so much information to him at the start. Bogey saves Maria because the writer assumes that the audience grew too attached to this weird OC who never looked or acted like a Sonic character, or even a character from another furry franchise, to the point where him actually being evil all along would be too much for them to handle. Bogey says he got jealous of Shadow for wanting to work so hard for someone else. So eventually Black Doom kills him, and says he knew he'd be of no use, even though he's the reason Shadow knew to get the 3 orbs for him. Because again, he doesn't make any sense. He's literally just acting because of sadism, which makes it confusing that he isn't sadistic enough. It's almost like he's just being portrayed like a chess piece instead of a character. He tries to absorb Shadow and says he can't erase Maria. I guess he's talking as if she's a memory, but that's not even knowing what words mean. A memory is something created by the synapses in the brain, and it's a bunch of zeros and ones from all the electricity. Because of her convenient plot armor, because the writer wrote himself into a corner, Maria can take a long time talking Shadow out of it. Eventually part of the city building gets damaged and she falls, but Shadow catches her. And she's not hurt, so she must not have been falling for very long. Well, that was convenient. And the story ends there. This was a convoluted disaster where Black Doom had no reason to bore me doing all of that talking to Shadow as if he was somehow Game Shadow and telling me stuff I already know. He would have just tried to absorb the power right away. It would have been a better villain moment for him to skip right to trying to kill Maria and absorb him, because it'd be meaner instead of trying to explain things to him for the sake of politeness. It doesn't come off as him just explaining it because he wants to brag and be sadistic, because he's not acting incredibly emotional about it. Of course, it's impossible to even tell what emotion he has in the first place. It's confusing and convoluted to have Black Doom lying that he manipulated Shadow's memory of the Ark, even though when Game Shadow went through what he did hate everything. And it just makes him look like an idiot because hating everything caused him to try to kill everybody on Earth so the Black Arms would have nothing to eat. Granted, he had no idea the Eclipse Cannon was a thing. But still, in a meta sense, it makes him look like an idiot. And the manga started out on the Ark at a time that was much earlier than the Ark raid, when all Black Doom needed to do, for a certain definition of needed, was make Shadow relive the arc raid and falling to Earth. But he doesn't even need to do that. Just summon Maria. This writing shouldn't try to be as complicated as possible when the writer didn't think any of it through. This is as confusing as the most confusing moments of Sonic Live. And in this one, I can't even say the story wouldn't be confusing most of the time if the story was told in the proper order chronologically, from start to finish. Why does it even bother making him have anything in common with the past of the game Shadow, when Omega and Rouge and Sonic aren't going to show up in the manga this time? So this isn't Game Shadow. This would only be canon by being an alternate universe. It's like the writer thinks we'll only respect the manga if we think this is Game Shadow. The only good twist this writer is capable of is making Bogai turn on the bad guy to save Maria.